Thank you for checking out Coastal Community Church. We hope that you receive hope and encouragement through this week's message. If this ministry has impacted your life in any way, please share your story at mystory@coastalcommunity.tv. We hope you enjoy the service.
Why does the most wonderful time of year always seem to leave us wanting more? We look forward to the gifts, music, and traditions, but the presents and parties are never enough. What do we really need? What about the people closest to us? What do we all need?
Well, good morning, Pompano. How are you guys doing this morning? You guys doing well? Awesome. Glad to have you guys with us at 11:50 service. You guys are the hardcore people. It's what I say every week. You guys coming to late service, or you just like sleeping, one of the two. Cool with it. Glad that you guys are here. My name is TJ. I'm one of the pastors. Glad to be back with you. I've been gone over the last couple of weeks, and so it's good to be back and sharing and looking forward to this new series called A Thrill of Hope, as we're discussing what does hope look like and how do we possess it in this time of year. Anybody excited for the Christmas season? Anybody ready for it? A couple of people, like one guy is like really stoked about it. Awesome. I'm apparently talking to the right crowd. We're going to talk about hope today. Maybe y'all need some. But I know that Christmas time is a very, very hopeful time for people in life. They have hope for gifts maybe that are under the tree. They have hope for relationships that are going to be formed, relationships with family. If you're like me, I have hope to not spend time with my family, and that's always a great thing. But there's hope for the new year. We're right on the horizon of 2017, and so 2016 is about to end. 2017 is right on the way. And so there's hope for a lot of things that can take place during this season and what this season is all about. On the flip side of that, I also know that there's a lot of people that don't have much hope in this season. I know that pain is always around, but it seems like pain becomes a little bit more evident this time of year. Statistics show that the divorce rate goes up in the month of December. Statistics show that the suicide rate definitely increases in the month of December. I know that debt goes up in the month of December for a lot of people. Spend money on things for people they don't even like, trying to impress them. It's just one of those crazy seasons. And it seems like things that could normally get swept under the rug of life seems to get highlighted during this time. And so, how do we really embrace hope? And there's a movie that was one of my stepdad's favorite movies. It's a Christmas classic called It's a Wonderful Life. Anybody like It's a Wonderful Life in here? A couple people have seen it. Yeah, there's like some people. Last night it was actually on TV. I saw it in the TV Guide thing, and I was like, Shayla, we should watch It's a Wonderful Life. And Shayla's like, I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life in my life. And I'm like, oh man, it's one of George's, my stepdad. I'm like, it's one of George's favorite movies. And she's like, let's watch something else. And so she missed out on an incredible movie. But I love. There's a scene in the very beginning that I think is so relevant to today and today's message. And if you've never seen it, basically, there's a guy named Clarence who is kind of like a second-class angel, and he's getting ready to get his wings. And this is a big deal. And so his superior comes to him, and he gives him an assignment. An assignment is a person. And he says, man, you're assigned to this guy named George Bailey, who's kind of the main character of this movie. And he goes, and so Clarence naturally asks his superior, like, what's wrong with this guy? And he goes, is he sick? And the superior looks at Clarence and goes, oh no, Clarence, it's much worse than that. He goes, he's discouraged. And I thought about that line because discouragement is the ultimate hopelessness. And that discouragement, that hopelessness, is so much worse than a physical sickness in life. It's a greater pain than we experience. In fact, the Bible tells us that hope deferred makes our heart sick. And so, like, the lack of hope in life can actually cause some physical symptoms, but more than that, it causes emotional symptoms and it causes some spiritual symptoms to happen in our life. And so I want to just talk about, to kind of start off today, some symptoms that maybe you're experiencing, because I think that at some point in life, all of us experience a sense of hopelessness, and if you haven't, there's a good opportunity that's probably going to come down the road, or maybe you have, or you can definitely see hopelessness in other people, but there are some symptoms that kind of follow hopelessness, and if you're taking notes, there's some fill in the blanks in your worship guides. One of the symptoms that maybe you're facing out there today is maybe you're disoriented in life, and that's where you lose sight of where you are. You just kind of become lost in the myriad of life. And I don't know about you, but that feeling of being lost is a paralyzing feeling, because you don't really know what direction to take, what steps to take, where do you go in that situation, and you just get to this point where you don't know what to do. And there's a guy in the Bible, his name is Job. He experienced the same exact thing in life. He went through some difficult times. He lost his family, he lost his wealth, he lost his status, he ended up losing his health. And this is what he says in Job 17:13. He says, "Where then is my hope? Who can see any hope for me?" He's looking around, and what happens is when we get disoriented, we lose sight of where hope is. We lose sight of where the source of our hope comes from. It reminds me of when I was younger. My grandparents had a boat. We lived on the other side of the state, so we were in the Gulf of Mexico, and I would go out fishing with my cousins. I'm not much of a fisherman, but I love driving the boat, and so if there was an opportunity, and I remember we decided to go fishing. Instead of staying inshore, we were going to go offshore, and we'd never done that. We'd never tried it before, but I was like, oh, man, I'll do it. And so I drive out with all of my cousins. I'm the oldest one there. I'm maybe like 13 years old. I don't know if that was good parenting or not, or grandparenting, but so we drive out. We probably drive out a mile. I have no idea. We drove an hour out into the ocean. We stopped. We anchored down. And we fished. We fished for a couple of hours. And I remember when we were done fishing and we needed to go back home, I remember looking and going, okay, it's time to go home, and looking around and realizing I don't know which direction home is. You know, because I was looking around and you couldn't see shore anywhere. You just looked around and all you saw was ocean just drifting, you know, just waves just going by and by. And so my thought was ocean, the home was this way. Another cousin thought home was this way. Why? Because we had gotten disoriented. And so many times in life, what happens is we get disoriented by the things that happen in life, the disappointments that take place, the bad reports that we give, the friction that we have in relationships. And all of a sudden, we don't know what to do, and we lose that home base. And it's such a terrible feeling when you don't know what to do. Another symptom that maybe you're facing today is sometimes when we're facing hopelessness, we start drifting in life, and you find yourself where you just slowly but surely, you just stay stagnant, and you just naturally drift away from a place where you know is home. And you start trying other things. You start trying to forge your own path and make your own way and get your way out of situations that you found yourself in. In fact, the Bible says that in Isaiah that we all like sheep have gone astray. We've all tried to forge our own way. It says each has turned his own way. Each one of us have gone off and tried to make our own path. And we just do this naturally. We don't even have to try in life to drift. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we were doing a beach baptism for our entire church. Both the campuses came together. We went out to Pompano Beach, and we had this family fun day. And at the end, we were going to go baptize people. And all of our staff and pastors jumped in the water. And Shayla and I were on shore. And we were sending people out to get baptized. And we started off right in front of our pavilion that we had rented out. And we were baptizing people. There were some big waves coming in. And before long, after they had baptized about 3 people individually, they had drifted about 30 yards closer to where they were super, super close to the Pompano Beach Pier. All of a sudden, they went from being in a safe place to all of a sudden they were in a very, very dangerous place. And none of them intentionally moved that way. None of them wanted to go that way. But what happened is the waves of life just naturally, gravitationally pulled them that way. And the same thing is true for us. Natural life will just pull us away from hope. It'll just constantly be tugging at us and getting us away from the source of the thing that can bring us hope. And if we allow ourselves to be disoriented long enough and drift long enough, eventually we'll end up in this state of despair. And this is kind of the ultimate hopelessness in life. When you're in this place of despair, you just want to give up on life. In fact, in 2 Corinthians, it says this: we were under great pressure. Some of you guys know exactly what that's like. You know what it's like to be under great pressure. You feel it right now in the holiday season where there's more month than there is money, and you still got all of these obligations to come, and you have all of these gifts to give, and there's the pressure to perform, to live up to the standard of what your friends are getting from their parents, and you feel like you have to live at that standard, and then you've got the pressure to be at all of these functions that are happening out there, and there's just pressure everywhere. And it can cause you to get to this place where he looks at it and he goes, it was far beyond our ability to endure. So we despaired even life. Get to this point where you despair even your own life. And I love reading. I recently, not too long ago, read a book about our military, and it was called Survivor, and it was about prisoners of war from Vietnam. And these American heroes. And I'm so proud that we have guys that are willing to fight for our freedom and go and do whatever it takes. And it's a story about one guy in particular, this major. His name was Harold Kushner. And he was captured. He was actually a medic who got captured by the Viet Cong. And he and a whole group were put in the worst Viet Cong concentration prison camp in all of Vietnam. And the conditions were horrendous. And this guy and some of the other people that were in his group tell their story of how they survived this amazing, amazing tragedy of being captured during wartime. And he tells a story about how one of the soldiers in the middle of this, the Viet Cong would constantly tell them, if you cooperate with us, we'll let you go. Well, one of the soldiers bought into it, even though they kept telling him, don't do it, don't do it. This guy bought into it, and he started becoming the model prisoner for the Viet Cong. I mean, anything that they would ask him to do, he would do. But over time, this guy started to realize that the Viet Cong, they were lying to him. And this is what Major Kushner describes what happened when this guy had the realization that he had gotten kind of suckered in this moment, and that his freedom was not going to be granted. He says, this is what he says. He says, he became a zombie. This guy refused to do any work, and he rejected all offers of food and encouragement. He simply laid in his cot, sucking his thumb. In a matter of weeks, he was dead. And Major Kushner says, if there is one cause of death, he says it was this: it was hopelessness. The thing that caused this man to die was the fact that he became demoralized and he was mired in despair. In fact, a psychologist said this. He says, since my early years as a physician, I learned that taking away hope is for most people like pronouncing a death sentence. He said, without hope in our life, it's like a death sentence for us. People struggle. They just want to give up on life. And here's the good news for us is that we have a hope that can far surpass any circumstance around us. We have a hope that is everlasting, a hope that is a game changer. And that hope is Jesus Christ. And we have a hope that we can give not only to ourselves but to other people. And I'm proud that as a church, we're a church that's all about hope, bringing hope to the hopeless, life to the lifeless. And this Christmas season, we have some opportunities to do that I want to tell you about. We had one of them yesterday. We had our big Collier City Carnival for the kids in Collier City. It was incredible, incredible day of just serving that community. I'm so grateful for a church that just gives sacrificially. In fact, this week we have our gift giving to the community in Collier City. It's going to be awesome. In fact, on Tuesday night, if you want to get involved and help wrap some gifts for kids in Collier City, we're going to be doing that at our offices. I'm sure they'll tell you about that later, or they already told you about that. But the thing that I'm really jacked about is that we have our 12 days of serving coming up starting on December 13th. We've done this for a couple of years. It's just a great opportunity for us to serve people in our community and bring them hope in a time when life is so chaotic and hopeless. And we're going to kick it off on the 13th by going and partnering up with First Church of Coral Springs, and they have the big event with Bethlehem. They'll have thousands of people come out there, and we're going to partner up with them and hand out hot chocolate and give hugs and give some cookies to people and just help people have an incredible experience there where they might experience Jesus Christ for the very first time. And we get to be a part of that, and throughout the time, we're going to give you something every single day that you can be a part of or you can do to bring hope to people. And here's the deal. We want you to celebrate that and let us know that you're being a part of that and how you're being a part. We're actually going to throw a hashtag up. It's called hashtag Coastal, the number 12 DOS, Days of Serving. And so we're going to do 12 days of serving. And here's the deal. As we're serving our community, as you're out there doing that, we want you to take a picture and hashtag that on Instagram, hashtag that on Facebook. And every time we see that hashtag, we're going to enter you into a drawing for like the ultimate date night or family day, whatever you want to call it, potential. You might be able to get a date because you have this package for all the single people out there. It's going to be like gift cards to places to eat and movies and coffee shops, all this cool stuff. And we're going to hand that out, and we're going to randomly draw somebody that's going to win that. But here's the other cool thing. We know that God doesn't just bless us so that we can consume. He blesses us so we can be a blessing to other people. And so we're not only going to give you one of those for yourself and your family to use, but we're going to give you a second package that's identical to that one that we want you to take and give to somebody else and bring them hope this Christmas season. And so it's a really cool thing. And then on Christmas Eve, after our Christmas Eve services, which will be absolutely incredible, we do something that we've done from the very beginning at our church. We go Christmas caroling in the bars around town. Now, I don't know about you, but if you're in a bar on Christmas Eve, let me just say this in the nicest, most genuine way. Your life sucks, okay? Like if you're in a bar on Christmas Eve, it means that you probably don't have any family, or if you do have family, you've broken relationships with them, and you're trying to drink away your sorrows. And I can't think of a better place for the church to be than where broken people are and where hopeless people are. And yeah, it's incredible. In fact, I probably starting next week, I'll start getting phone calls from bars asking, are you coming this year? Because they want us there. They want us to come and bring the joy of Christmas, which is Christ, to people who need it. And so those are some opportunities that are ahead of us that I want to let you know about. Let me jump back into this, a thrill of hope. Let me define what hope is. And let me start by defining what hope is not, because sometimes we get a mixed idea of what hope is. And so hope is not wishful thinking. A lot of people live their life with wishful thinking. They have some ideas of grandeur, and that's awesome. And you can wish all day long that the Dolphins are going to win a Super Bowl this year. Like, that's wishful thinking, but we all know that's not true. Like, that's just a grand idea that you have in your head. Tannehill will throw 37 interceptions the next 2 games, even though they won 6 straight, and it'll be over with. And so hope is not wishful thinking. Hope is not blind optimism. I'm all about optimism. I'm an optimistic person. But it's like I saw this sign on Pinterest of this person that was looking for their dog, and it had a picture of a dog, and it says, dog lost. He's been castrated, he's blind, and he only has 3 legs, and it answers to the name Lucky. I don't care who you are, that dog ain't lucky. And so you can have some blind optimism, but that is not lucky, and that is not hopeful. Hope is also not ambitious dreams. Listen, it's good to have goals. I'm all about setting BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. If you're a Good to Great fan, those are awesome things. But I can have a hope and a dream to play in the NBA, and I can go shoot hoops in my front yard every single day, but I'm 5'0" with no vertical leap. It ain't gonna happen. And so it's great to have ambitious dreams. So hope is not wishful thinking. It's not blind optimism. It's not ambitious dreams. Let me tell you what hope is. Hope is a confident expectation based on something solid in life. Let me repeat that for you. Hope is a confident expectation based on something solid in life. When everything else is moving around you in life, hope is an immovable force in your life that is based on something firm and is based on something solid. Let me explain it like this. I'm a huge Notre Dame football fan. If you've been around our church at any point in time, you know that normally I'm extremely, extremely boisterous about Notre Dame football, and typically we're really good. This year we are terrible. Like, we are 3-8. We are like one of the worst teams in college football, and it's super disappointing to me because I thought we were supposed to be good. But I have hope in our team, and it's based on something solid. Some of y'all would be like, you're smoking crack because you're terrible. But my hope is based on something solid. Listen, we have the best quarterback in the country. His name is Deshaun Kaiser, and he said he's coming back next year. And so that right there means that, man, I've got some hope based on something solid. We have an incredible offensive line that's all coming back next year. I have hope based on something solid. Not quite as solid as Alabama Crimson Tide as they destroyed Florida yesterday. That's really solid. But mine is based on something pretty solid. Some of you might think, man, you got some blind faith. But man, listen, my faith is based on something solid. Because let me define what faith is. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, it says, now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Faith is being sure. Faith is being sure. Faith is being what? Sure. Faith is being what? Sure. Faith is being sure of what we hope for and, okay, you guys weren't very good on that one. And of what we do not see. So faith is this sureness and this certainty. But for most people, hope is something that they do in life. I just hope. See, the difference between most people and a Christ follower is hope isn't something that you do as a Christian. Hope is something that you have. A lot of us, we do hope. Man, I hope that this takes place. I hope that that happens. But for somebody that is a Christ follower, it isn't something that they do in their life. It's something that they have. It's something that they possess. In fact, the Bible talks about hope as a living hope. It's something solid. It's something tangible. It's something that is alive in your life. And so it's not something that you do. It's something that you possess. That's why David said in Psalm chapter 71, verse 14, but as for me, I will always have hope. It's something that he possessed in his life. It's something that you and I can possess in our life. That's why the Bible calls hope an anchor for our soul. That's something that we can possess in our life. And what does an anchor do? What does an anchor do for you? When the waves of life come storming in, and when disorientation takes place and drift starts to happen, and the storms of despair come, what does an anchor do? It holds you to something solid. It keeps you in place in the midst of storms. That's why the Bible calls our hope an anchor for our soul. In fact, in Hebrews 6:19, it says, we have this hope. It's something that we possess as an anchor for our soul, firm and secure. It's something that's solid in our life. No matter what life hurls your way, no matter what storms come at you, no matter what tribulation you're facing, our hope will keep us secure. So is everybody with me so far? Everybody get this so far? Everybody with me? So the question is what do I have to do to possess hope? That's the question I ask. Like, if I'm not possessing hope, like, what do I have to do to possess hope? And I think it's pretty simple. Hope it has a couple of things it's going to require of you. Number one, hope requires trust. Hope is going to require some trust. I went shopping for Shayla's Christmas gift earlier this week, and I was at a boat store, and they just didn't really have anything good there. They didn't have puppies, and so I was kind of stuck with what was available, but I actually went to this boat store looking for an anchor because I don't know much about anchors, and I thought, man, the best place to research an anchor is with people who use anchors all the time. And so I went in, and I was like, where's your anchor section? They have an entire section of anchors. And so I went in, and I was talking to this guy, and this anchor is a pretty small anchor. It's like a 10-pound anchor, so it's not very heavy duty. And when I looked at this, and I was like, seriously, like, what is that going to do in life? Like a 10-pound anchor, what does that hold? Like a dinghy? Like, is that hold like a raft or something? I mean, that isn't very significant. And this guy was like, man, you're crazy. And he goes, do you know that this anchor right here, a 10-pound anchor will hold an 18 to 24-foot boat, no problem. I was like, what? Say what? Like this little anchor, 10 pounds, is in essence going to hold thousands upon thousands of pounds. He's like, that's exactly right. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, this anchor is not very significant. It's not very big. It's not very, intimidating to me. Like, I think the cruise ship anchor, that would hold some stuff, but like, why would this hold much? And he's like, I know that it doesn't make any sense to you, but this will hold thousands of pounds. And a lot of us, what happens in life is we go through life and we don't think the significance of hope is very big. Well, let me tell you something. The significance of hope is enormous in your life. You don't think it holds very much, but hope is a game changer when it comes to your faith. And when you start to trust hope, it changes everything. In fact, there's a story that is in the Bible that will relate to a lot of us, because a lot of people, they'll look at their situation, they'll go like, hey, listen, I know your situation, God did this and God did that and God did this and God did that. Well, my situation is different. My situation is hopeless. Let me tell you a hopeless situation. There's a guy named Abraham. He's 100 years old. He doesn't have any kids. He has a wife that's 95 years old. How many of y'all know that's old? They're old. And God says, you're going to have kids. And Abraham's like, all right. And this is what he actually says in Hebrews 4:18. It says, against all hope, Abraham in hope believed. Like Abraham's like, I'll take that. I'll take that and I'll believe that. His wife, on the other hand, her name was Sarah. She laughed at that idea. Abraham's like, man, I believe the Cialis commercial. Let's get in some bathtubs and let's get jiggy with it tonight. But Sarah, she wasn't believing it. She didn't have that hope. She just thought that, man, what's up with Abraham today? Abraham hoped in a hopeless situation. She laughed at it. Why? Because you think, oh man, that's not being real. You're just pragmatic. You think that person's in denial of the situation. But let me tell you something. Hope is like an anchor. It might not look like much, but man, if you attach yourself to it, it can hold thousands of pounds. See, some of us, we got a lot of negative self-talk happening within us. And so what happens is God says, man, put your trust in me. Put your hope in me. And all of a sudden, what goes on inside of us is we start telling ourselves, man, God is crazy. That doesn't make any sense. There's no way that could work for your life. I understand that might work for somebody else's life, but there's no way that could work in your life. There's no way that you could be forgiven. There's no way that you could be free. They don't understand your past. They don't understand what's happened to you in life. They don't understand what's taken place in your life. There's no way that they're going to accept you. And you start having all this negative self-talk starts to happen, and you need to start to tell your natural man, those mind, that will, that those emotions that are going to go on within you, you need to tell them the truth. I love what David did. David started talking to himself, and I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but in Psalms 42 he says, why are you downcast, O my soul? He's talking to himself. Why are you so disturbed within me? He's like, why is all this negativity going on? And then he does what we need to do. He says, put your hope in God. He starts to tell himself what he needs to do. And we need to start telling ourselves what we need to do. Because here's the deal. A ton of us, we have the hope of eternity. We've accepted Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, and we have this hope, and it's sitting in the boat of our life. But here's the deal. Anchors don't do any good in the boat. An anchor only becomes solid when it gets tossed out of the boat. Come on, somebody. Somebody needs to hear that today, because you're like, man, I've got hope, but you're just not using it. You haven't used that. You haven't trusted in anything. You're just possessing a hope. You're possessing an anchor, but if you don't use the anchor, it has no effectiveness to hold you in solid ground. And it's going to require you to do something with it. What does that mean? You got to toss it over the boat and into the water. So what does that mean? Number 2, hope has got to be anchored to something that's unseen. Because when you toss it into the water, here's the problem that most of us have, myself included, is I love control. Anybody else like control out there? Anybody like controlling situations, dictating, like, I want to know everything that's going to happen, how it's going to happen, the moment it's going to happen, why it's going to happen that way, who said this and who's going to do that. Like, I want to control everything. And we like to control, but what happens when you throw an anchor in the water? All of a sudden, you don't see it anymore. You don't possess it anymore. You have no idea what it's doing underneath there. It requires you to have faith in something that you can't see any longer. And for some of us, what that means for us is that we've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in life. But I like just holding on to my anchor and hugging it. Yeah, but it's not doing you any good. It's going to get you to heaven, but it's not going to get you through life. Let me repeat that because somebody needs to hear that today. That anchor is going to get you to heaven, but it's not going to get you through life. You're like, why am I going through all these things? Because you haven't anchored your hope into something unseen. You're anchoring it to everything that you can hold on to. In fact, 2 Corinthians tells us this. I love this. Such a great passage of Scripture. It says, for our light and momentary troubles. The things that you're going through right now in life. The difficulties that you're facing in your finances. The difficulties you're facing in your relational world. The difficulties emotionally that you're facing that you feel so overwhelmed by. God looks at those and goes, man, those are light and those are momentary. I know it seems big to you, but in God's world, what seems big to you is small to Him. He says your light and momentary troubles, if you put faith in me, are achieving an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. He says, so we fix our eyes not on what's in front of us, not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary. That circumstance you're going through is temporary. But we fix our eyes on what's eternal. In other words, what Paul is saying right here and what God is saying to you is that the circumstances you're facing today are subject to change when you let go of them and put your faith and trust in God. When you anchor your hope to something that is unseen. And what is that unseen thing that you have to anchor to? Number 3 is hope is found in a relationship with God. See, hope is only as powerful as what it's attached to. See, this anchor, if it's not attached to something, like this anchor by itself has very, very little power. You can throw it overboard, but if it's not attached to something, it's not going to hold it in place. And a lot of us, we go through life and we attach our hope in a relationship. We attach our hope in our career. We attach our hope in our possessions. We attach our hope in money. And I don't know if you've realized this or not, but all of those things will disappoint you in life. They will let you down. And God says, man, I want you to attach to something that's solid, something that's firm, and that's a relationship with me. People think, well, I walked an aisle, I filled out a card, and that's awesome. Like, the church has been really good at helping people do religious activity. And like, those are positive things. I think we should get baptized and we should fill out cards. We should let people know. But it's not about you doing activity. It's about you knowing a living God. And that living God knowing you. and you experiencing the fullness of life that only He can bring to your life, that He wants to bring to your life. See, because when you and we attach ourselves to a relationship with God, it is a game changer for us when it comes to hope. Because I love what Romans 15 says. It says, may God, who is the source of hope. I've just discovered in life you can't really understand something until you understand where it comes from. And you'll never fully, truly grasp hope. You'll fully never experience hope until you experience the one who created all hope, who is hope. And so God is the source of hope. And He says, man, what hope does is it fills you with joy and it fills you with peace through our faith, which is us trusting Him in the unseen. And He says, and when you do that, what will happen is you will overflow with hope. And I don't know about you, but I want my life to overflow with hope. I want every nook and every cranny and every aspect of my being to be so full that it just bubbles out of me. And so how do you know if you have that kind of hope? It's really pretty simple. When the chaos of life is happening all around you, when the storms of life are happening externally around you, what's happening internally within you? See, because while the world is chaotic and storms are happening outside here, do you still possess joy and peace in here? Because when you possess joy and peace inside of here, what God gives you in life, it's probably the greatest commodity you could have is you have rest in Him. That's why David said, find rest, O my soul. God alone. My hope comes from Him. And maybe you're in here today and you haven't been experiencing hope. Maybe you've been going through the chaos of life and you're like, man, I'm missing that. I haven't been experiencing that, man. It's been gone from my life. And if you want hope today, it starts by finding hope in the one that brings it all, and that's Jesus Christ. And here's the promise that God gives when you find hope. And in Isaiah it says this, but those who hope in the Lord, those who put their trust there, will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Why? Because their hope is based on something immovable, an anchor for their soul, firm and secure.
Thank you for checking out Coastal Community Church. We hope that you receive hope and encouragement through this week's message. If this ministry has impacted your life in any way, please share your story at mystory@coastalcommunity.tv. We hope you enjoy the service.